Emily Elizabeth, and I'm the host of the What Fulfills You podcast, a show for and about individuals always seeking to be their best selves. On this show, we talk all about building the mindset, finding the right careers, creating meaningful relationships, and so much more. Welcome to the What Fulfills You podcast. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of What Fulfills You. My name is Emily Elizabeth. I'm your host, and today's episode is focused on how to level up your life and your mindset. So, the core focus of leveling up on this episode is your mind, your body, and just your overall approach to life. So, I will break it up in different segments. But with that being said, the first part, we're going to start off with your mindset and the things that you think about on a daily basis. So, something I wrote out here is what you plant in your mind is what you believe. And this is something that I recently talked about with a friend because she was sharing her thoughts and I guess you could say concerns that it is likely for a majority of men to be unfaithful. So this came to mind after a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about relationships, dating, and our past experiences, and just certain beliefs that we have around, I think, dating as a whole. And one aspect that I was talking about, which is super unrelated, but something I was sharing, is that for those who are single, I don't believe the best approach is apps at all. In fact, I was never someone that really leaned or used apps, but I share that because I'm a firm believer in being able to meet people organically. And I say that so often now because I see so many people often sharing, oh, it's so hard to date, or this city is really hard to date, or, all the good ones are taken, or I don't know how to meet people anymore. And in my head, I'm thinking, you guys, what do you mean it's so hard to meet people? Like, it, even the friend that I was talking about this with, we met through a mutual friend. And that mutual friend, I also happened to basically meet, even though we actually kind of knew each other from our childhood life in the skating world, but that's irrelevant. But anyways, like this person who was our mutual connection, I took her Pilates class in Florida when I was there during the holidays. And recognizing her face and name, I was like, wait a second, I think we trained together at skating. And then long story short, we ended up connecting while I was there during the holidays. But it started because I took the initiative to come up to my Pilates instructor and share with her, "Hey, I think we actually know each other from our childhood days." And you know what I mean? Like the key ingredient is willingness to be the first person or willingness to be the first mover. And to my gals out there, I remember I used to debate this with my high school best friend many years ago. So this is so how consistent I am with this topic, which is that my friend used to say that if you make the first move or you show the first initiative, you're chasing the guy or chasing whoever. And for some people, it's an ego thing. And let me clarify, if this is going to be within the dating realm, just because you are opening the door for a guy to have an opportunity to say hello, to, make a move, to impress you or whatever, it doesn't mean you are the one that's chasing him. It's so funny. If you ask other guys what they would like more women to do, it's 100% taking initiative and showing a little nudge, showing a hint that is obvious enough for them to make a gesture, to ask you out or to, at least have a conversation. That being said, with this friend, when we were talking about all of this, we ended up diving into loyalty and modern dating and whether people today can still be faithful compared to the past and all of this stuff. And this friend was sharing a concern that she really feels like majority of men are likely to be unfaithful at some point. And I shared with her, it's interesting because I really believe it comes down to the circle of influence we are surrounded by. So, what I mean by that is number one, I disagree with her viewpoint on that and her statistic because two reasons. Number one, I have my own bias, being that I have been around most men who I seriously, not to be dramatic, but gun to the head, whether to me or to the guys themselves, I know would not do that thing, would not be unfaithful, would not be that type of person. And I told her, I might sound, because she was saying I might sound cynical for saying this because of her belief that most are likely to do that. And I was saying I might sound cynical, if anything, as well, or naive, whatever, to be saying that I actually think it really depends on the pool of men you're referencing. And that I believe that majority, if not all men, I'm actually thinking actively right now, like all the guys that I know personally that are friends with me, etc., would not be unfaithful to their partner, to their committed relationship. And so I shared with her, that's interesting, right? Because to take it a step further, I have one of my best guy friends of like 8 or 9 years. I shared this with him multiple times before, which is that every single guy friend of his, especially his best friends, all of which I've met like once or twice, even though I only know them on the surface, I would bet gun to my head that they would not ever be unfaithful to their partner. And my friend said, yeah, absolutely. Those are just like the types of guys they are. And I told my friend, who actually, his name is Harry, he's been on the podcast, and I said to him, I'm not surprised because you are also like that. And I'm not surprised that that's just the aura, the energy about you guys that I get, and I've met them like this is like I'm talking we're going back to college days, And I remember just being around his guy friends. It's just like a very, very specific energy. Mind you, I'm going on tangents here, but mind you, I could imagine certain types of girls, maybe being like, oh, they're too nice or they're too, I don't know, like just too normal, too stable, right? And I find that very interesting because the ones that most people say, both guys and girls, that are too stable or too vanilla or, there's not enough oomph to them, I find that very interesting because most of the time, those people are the ones that are loyal and really reliable and for so many fundamental reasons. I think when I look at some of the common denominators amongst, these guys that I'm referencing, and including outside of that group as well, there's just a lot of security in themselves. Like they're all very secure. I even referenced this to my friend in this conversation, like, even my first boyfriend ever, which was in college, he was the same exact way, cookie cutter, like my own friend and his friends. And they're not even, like they don't even know each other, but like the types that now that I'm thinking it, that I've been surrounded by very, very heavily are these types of men, right? And so, to be honest, anything that's super outside of that gets like it's a huge I don't know, it's very foreign to me. Like anything that's not like guys like that is very foreign to me and also very obvious because the energy and aura of these types of guys are very specific. And another thing I remember reading too when it comes to attachment styles, if you read the book Attached, which is a very common book around attachment styles, it says statistically that securely attached people are often quickly off the dating market because of their ability to attract a fellow secure attached partner and to also step away from like an avoidant or a what do you call it? Anxious really fast because when someone is like secure in themselves, anyone that is kind of push pulling and like doing these games or whatever, a really securely attached person just doesn't partake in that. So they don't find themselves in that loop as some others, including myself, who have been in, right? Like that loop of push-pull or whatever, which is often related to being either anxious attached or avoidant attached. Even if it's mild, it kind of shows up in some shape or form. But all that to say, what you plant in your mind is what you believe, and that also applies to who and what you're surrounded by. So, because I'm surrounded by a lot of people, especially men specifically. This includes like family friends, family members, like all that kind of stuff. They all have a very similar temperament, like not very volatile guys. They're very stable, like emotionally as well. And so for me in my head, I don't go around with this naive belief like, oh, no one would cheat or be unfaithful, but rather that I am surrounded by an abundant amount of guys and their friends and their circle of influence that are more like this. And if you teeter over to the other side of the spectrum, guys that are, the not nice boys, right? Like the ones that are a little they play a little bit of games, or they seem super charismatic, like they just seem so amazing off the get-go. There's usually something deeper that might need to, you just might need to be more cautious about when it is related to like dating and if loyalty is something that you're concerned about. I would say like it's the irony is that the people who exhibit more stable, not dramatic, not volatile traits are often the ones that you can rely on. Keep in mind, guys, take this with a grain of salt that nothing is ever, black and white, 100%, 0%, whatever, but you get the gist, oftentimes. And maybe you can nod your head and like see this for yourself. Like you just know maybe you're surrounded by certain types of people that also exhibit really similar traits. Like I could say this about my female friends too. Like night and day, there are certain women in my life that, especially the ones that, if anyone were to ever ask me, would this person or, these women like ever be unfaithful? Same answer. It's like 100% no. And ironically, all the ones that I would say 100% zero doubt no, the irony is that those women that are my friends, even though like some of them I'm thinking of right now, they're not friends with each other, but they do exhibit very, very similar traits. And one of those being stable. And it's almost funny too. I actually said this to the friend in conversation that it's sometimes like those people that really just had a solid childhood and didn't have too much to be traumatized by. Like it's again, not saying it's only those types of people, but I was thinking of a common theme between like my college boyfriend and my other guy friend I referenced earlier, and some of his friends, and one of my girlfriends I'm thinking about right now. Like all of them did ironically have that. So I'm not saying that's the only solution or whatever, but it is very, very, just kind of funny to think about that. Oh, wow, they all also had that in common. I wonder if there's a correlation. So, that being said, where I'm going with this is that you want to plant what you want to see and become more like physically and mentally. So, again, physically meaning surround yourself with the people that embody these traits, embody this persona, embody this character. On the other hand, if you can't be physically around them, plant their content in your mind or their books or their whatever that you can take from them. So like my personal example, when I think of women that I admire and want to embody in a similar way, first four that come to mind, like Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, Emma Grede, the CEO of Skims and Good American. I also really like Lauren Bostic. She's also the co-host of Skinny Confidential, founder of the Skinny Confidential. And another woman, she's actually been a guest on this podcast, and I follow her, her journey and her stories on Instagram. Julianne Fraser, highly recommend to listen to that episode. I will try my best to link that episode in the show notes. But she is the founder of Dialogue. It's an influencer focused agency, and they basically help brands with their influencer campaigns, and she's just an all-around badass. But all that to say, all four women, right? Some are a little bit more further arm's length. Some are a little bit like closer in terms of like, I kind of know personally or I have talked to personally, right? And so I write down the why, right? When I look at the list of women I've written out, why? Why do I like these women? What about them do I want to become more like? And I focus on this, not to put them on a pedestal, but to have a little bit of clear direction of the types of women I want to be in the same rooms with, the types of people I want to spend more time with, and the types of people they're spending more time with, the types of people that, they're married to. Like I look at all these things. And so when I look at the why, a couple reasons why for me personally, I have these women written down. They're all female entrepreneurs and self-made. They are all also in strong marriages. They have a family unit and with children, right? That's actually second note I wrote. They all are married with a family unit and with children. And yet they're still living the dream and living as a woman that they want to be. And they're all married to men that not only supported their dreams and aspirations, but really pushed them forward, like towards that, like encouraged them, right? Obviously, they all have different love stories and like how they met. Like I know Julianne, who I spoke to obviously personally, and she said this on the podcast. She met her husband when she was 23 and he was like 25 or 26, and they knew from the beginning like, oh, we're gonna be married or whatever. Lauren and Michael, like they've been together since they were in their early 20s, but also like knew each other since middle school. Sarah Blakely, she met her husband Jesse Itzler a little bit later on in life, but again, both are badasses in their own domain. Emma Greed, same thing. Her and her partner also met, I think in her late 20s when I was listening to her podcast. And, they're both their own individuals. All of them are married to someone who not only is kind of similar to them in the sense of like they're just kind of all powerhouses, but also all supporting one another in like getting there. And mind you, I want to preface, yes, for some of them I only know from outside looking in, but I'll tell you this, I don't think that you can be married for that long and doing really, really well in your career and just in yourself, like as a person, like your health or the way you glow. I don't think you can be all of that for that long if your marriage and your relationship was like bad. You know what I mean? That's just, something I've noticed in people. But also other things that I really love about these women, they're well-rounded, they embody a beautiful balance of feminine and masculine attributes that I also see in myself. Like they are well-balanced, they're not, to one or the other, which again is my preference. And lastly, I wrote down that they speak well. They're sharp and they dress well, they hold themselves well. So I really am drawn towards that kind of energy. I'm really drawn towards intellectual curiosity. I'm drawn towards people that are sharp, that are smart, that are curious about the world and things bigger than them. And for the most part, these women embody like all these things that I've shared. All that to say, if you believe, quote unquote, all people are XYZ, then that is exactly what your mind will find, right? So again, if you believe in this case, like I've heard the narratives like, oh, women can't really do it all, like it's really hard, it's really rare, and if you think that, you're going to believe that. If you believe that, those are the people you focus on. But who am I focused on? I'm focused on women that are entrepreneurs like myself, or self-made like myself, and have strong relationships and marriages, have children, like have like, you know what I mean? So I have my eyes on a vision of what I see is possible, and then I am putting that vision next to people who have already done it before me. By doing that, my mind is continuously sitting in this belief of, yep, that's possible. Yep, I'm gonna do that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to healthy lifestyle and leveling up in this regard. It's just your overall health. Something I think is very important. Most of us probably know this, but being healthy or just saying that you're health focused, it's a lifestyle. It's something you embody. So it's how you eat, your workout regimen, what you put on your skin, the clothes that you wear, the fabric that it's like it's a macro thing, right? So I'll share some of the things that I've changed over the past 3 years specifically that has helped me lean even more into this lifestyle and this health focused lifestyle. So, one area, a little over a year ago, I started to pay attention more to my protein intake. So, I try to get 30 grams per meal, 30 grams of protein, and this keeps me more full. It helps with my muscle growth. It helps regulate blood sugar. And this is just stuff that I learned from health and holistic health coaches that have been on my podcast or like functional dietitians, all of that. And that's just been really helpful for me to learn. And I have noticed a difference in my hair. My hairdresser had said the same thing. I remember last year he's like, "Your hair is really different." And I didn't like he's you know what I mean? I see him like once every 2 to 3 months. And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, like it's the strains are so much thicker." And I'm like, "Oh wow." This was like a 3 months after I started increasing my protein. I started being way more mindful. I started actually eating enough protein, especially, meat as well, because I do love meat. So, anyways, that's one area of health that I've changed. Another element to consider is like changing out your products to cleaner or clean ingredients. So, to me, that's like all of the above. So, like skincare brands, like I personally use Lene Botanicals. Um, you can use the code EmilyE20 for 20% off your purchase. But I love Lene. I've been reordering their stuff for like the past year and a half, maybe almost 2 years now. And the founder, she was also on the podcast, and we'll try to link that episode. But it just feels so good knowing that I'm putting more natural ingredients on my skin. And that's something I've been really changing is like going from this chemical to more natural. And again, it's not every single thing, right? I'm not perfect, but I try to focus like 80% of the products I use to be more clean ingredients. I also am mindful with my makeup, so I love brands like Merit, Westman Atelier. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Also a new brand that's also on the clean side. It's Ciele, I think, Ciele. Highly recommend to check them out. Again, just small changes do make a difference, especially if you care about your overall health. Also, when it comes to working out, I've changed my regimen in the recent years. So, 2.5 years ago, I returned to tennis. Since then, I play regularly about 2 to 3 times a week. Skating, I've also kind of come back to since moving to New York. So now I try to skate, practice, 1 to 2 times a week, running, Pilates, yoga. So that's something I've been doing over the past 3 years is like instead of focusing just on Pilates or weightlifting, I really do a little bit of everything to just get my body in this changing mode and also so that it's not so stagnant, so it's not so used to something. Another big thing, which might seem super OCD, but I'm now more mindful of the fabric in my clothes and bedding. So I actually now check what things are made of. Like if it's made of 100% polyester, I really try to avoid that, you guys, like especially with blankets and just things that my face is on, I'm sleeping in, what I'm wearing, pajamas too. Yeah, like once I really looked into fabrics and like the chemicals that are in some of these, yeah, I'm not even gonna dive into it because I'm not an expert on it, but I just know I've done enough research to know like, okay, I want to focus on, like the actual good fabric. So focus on linen, cotton, wool, cashmere, like all these things. And mind you, I'm not a type of person that shops a ton and like buys everything I see. Like I don't support fast fashion, and I also have a smaller closet living in New York. So many different reasons for me to have a limited and more minimalist closet, which I like. And so for that reason, I do have more quality pieces and focus on that. And that helps with getting clothing or whatever that is higher quality and not wanting or needing more of, pieces of clothing because I just don't have enough space, nor do I want to spend on things I don't really need. So the third note I have here on leveling up your life is indulging in activities that spark curiosity, joy, and or growth. So I'll speak from my personal experience. What that looks like for me is I'm spending my free time and my money on things like learning a language and taking a class. Like if I were you and I were curious about this, virtual is nice. I've done that before. I've taken a virtual class 3 years ago, but I'm very curious on taking French as of lately, and I've been thinking about this for months. And if I do, I would definitely do that in person. I would do a class. I think it's like once or twice a week in person. And also, it's a great way to potentially meet new friends or people that like the French language. So I think that would be really cool. Something else I've also done in the past and will be doing more so in this upcoming quarter is DJing and doing intensive workshops and lessons. And that's just something that I'm passionate about. And it just brings me joy, and it's so different. It's a new skill, right? So it's something that I'm trying to, focus on and spend more time on. Of course, like pottery class, that's like an easy, like one or, occasional thing. Tennis clinics also brings joy. So keep that in mind when you are trying to focus on leveling up your life and just being more aligned and attuned to yourself and to your authentic self, because that is the secret sauce right there, which is investing in yourself and investing in the things that bring you curiosity and growth. I know that as adults, we have much more limited time and we have bills to pay and all of that. But if you could find one or two things that you are willing to invest in, and you know that you haven't been feeling the same joy or you haven't been feeling yourself and you just feel a little stagnant in your life, I highly recommend trying something like this for yourself. I have one of my best friends in New York. She's awesome. She does this in an amazing way and also inspires me. I know every week she does like band practice, she takes guitar lessons. I think every other week she does singing lessons. So I just think it's so cool that she pours into herself in a way that just fuels her curiosity. And it's, of course, things that's new for her. It's things that she's never done and tried when as a child. So I think it's really cool that she's doing this over the past couple of years as an adult. For the last note on leveling up your life and your mindset, being very intentional with who you spend time with and your friend selection process. So there's two parts to this. Number one, it requires being open and being open to meeting new people, right? Because as you grow and navigate adult life, you're going to have friends that come and go or friends that have different chapters of life, and that's normal. And that being said, if you want to change your circle of influence and change the types of people you're surrounded by, this also requires a level of openness from you and a level of willingness to go and meet people in different environments and just see who you might meet. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits I've had with my level of openness, which is being able to meet new people, especially women and mutual friends and women that I connect really well with on a deep level. So I think that's really important. And especially when it comes to friends, I always speak about chosen family and how I see friends as a form of chosen family. So by being intentional over the past, I don't know, like 5 years now, 6 years, it has dramatically changed my life. I've become more and more aligned with who I am. I feel more understood every time. And my life has just been brighter, especially when I'm navigating rough times or just rough days, whatever. Just knowing that I have support all around the world, from my friends who, wherever they are in the world. It's just nice knowing that I can call or text and connect and just share. And connection is the true foundation of fulfillment. And for those of you who have experienced just that feeling, it's like if you know, you know. And if you are looking for ideas on ways to spend more time with the people that you value and people that you find has shared values with you, I love doing these things here in New York City. Like, I love going to dinner and drinks. It's one of my favorite activities to do. I don't necessarily drink every single time, but I love doing like a girls' dinner, like after work, like an 8 p.m. dinner, 7:30 p.m. dinner. I love that. I also love hosting at home a cozy dinner in my apartment and just making it super cute. It's one of my favorite things. Day trips or weekend trips to travel together, any of that, or like visiting one another if you guys live far, right? So it's all about being intentional and making space for that. And if you feel like you have not found your circle or found your people yet, which I've been there many, many years ago, so I do know and resonate with that feeling, just trust me, it takes time. But it also, again, it requires you to be open and to be willing to meet people and put yourself out there. So, with that being said, I hope this episode was thought-provoking and helpful. And if you had takeaways, please be sure to let me know or share this episode on your Insta story. And if you do, tag my personal Insta at Emily E. Duong or the podcast Instagram at What Fulfills You. Make sure you are following on Instagram to see all of the inspirational and motivational content on the daily. And if you have any feedback or questions, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me directly on Instagram, again, at my account at Emily E. Duong, or the podcast Instagram at What Fulfills You. Thank you so much for tuning in. I would chat with you all in the next episode.